Okay, at 7 o'clock, we have a quorum. We'll call the meeting to order. Were we expecting Ed tonight, Kim?
I was expecting him to.
Okay, all right, maybe he's just
Yeah, I
running a
saw
little
him.
late.
2 hours ago.
Okay, all right. Okay, we're good, Mike? All right, we don't have any documents for review tonight. We don't have any draft minutes to review. So let's just jump right into the Hopkinton High School wetland replication discussion. Hey, folks, come on up. Welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Everyone, thank you for having us this evening.
Sure.
How you doing?
Hi.
How you doing? I'm
Good
Tim
evening.
Person. I'm the Director of Facilities for the Hopkinton Public Schools.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Kathy Herval with Gale Associates. We've worked
How you
on
doing,
the high school
Kathy?
project, good, and the
Good.
Fruit Street.
Yep, yep.
And
And I'm Matt Kinlan with Gale Associates as well.
he's my support engineer,
Yeah,
so.
you're on the call, you're on the Fruit Street as well, right?
No, that's Ryan.
That's what, all right, nice to meet you, Matt.
Nice to meet you as well.
Again, thanks for having us here and hearing us out. Little history on this project. Way back when the high school was built, the school, part of the construction permit, the original order of conditions from way back, required some wetland replications be conducted at the high school. It was never done. Gale Associates was involved with the permitting for the turf fields when they came in. And at that time, it was discovered that the replication was never done, that the certificate of compliance for the original permit was never done. So the town, the school district and such met with the Concom. We got the order of conditions for the fields and the understanding that the school would do the replication when the funding became available. Since then, the field was completed in 2018. The original permit expired in 2020. It was December 2020. Early 2019, Gail with the school started the process of designing the replication. We actually submitted plans and it was determined by the Concom back at a hearing, I believe it was April of 2019, the commission agreed to allow the replication to proceed as an insignificant change under the order of conditions for the turf fields, which was the newer order of conditions. At the time, we advanced it to the point, I believe we got some comments from Lucas Environmental. We were in the process of moving things forward and the funding didn't come through, so the project was put down. And then, of course, 19 led into 20 and COVID, and here we are. So the school now is committed to get this replication done. Susan Rothermich, who is the financial director for the school district, is going to find the funding to get this done.
Okay.
So we are here tonight, unfortunately, I guess to step back, the order conditions associated with turf field, even with the extension due to COVID, the deadlines got extended for the expirations. Even though it got extended, it actually expired March of this year. We missed it by a month or two.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So we reached out to Kim to see what our possible options might be. And she suggested perhaps requesting a friendly enforcement order from the commission to provide you with the mechanism to oversee the project, but also to give the school, the ability to move ahead and get it done. And that's where we are. We did, as part of our submittal with our request for the enforcement order, the friendly enforcement order, we addressed Lucas Environmental's comments from 19, updated the plans as such, and that's where we are. So it's really in your hands, and we respectfully, request your consideration and hope that we can find a permitting process that, helps the school as well financially, and, we can all get this done, so.
Okay, great,
Thank
thank
you.
you for the overview. So, yeah, this is a long time coming. It's been
Yeah.
before us a few
Yes.
times. I think it was
Yep.
2001, right?
Yes,
Uh,
yeah.
So the funding's in place now?
So we have, I believe in 2018 or 2019 through capital, we received from the town $40,000. We think we need $100,000, so we have $60,000 in the capital plan for this year. It
Okay.
was, I think 2020 pushed to 2021 capital due to COVID. So we have put it in our capital plan for this year, so we believe that funding will go through.
Okay. So the work would take place,
Or the best time would be probably the fall of this year. We don't wanna do it in the hot summer, obviously. If we get a cooler August, we might start sooner. It does have to be bid and such, publicly bid and that,
so you need
so.
some time to do that
But
anyways.
once we know we've got your blessing, we would, start with that process, so.
Okay. No, I like Kim's recommendation on the friendly enforcement order. I think that's a more efficient way to go about it, rather than having you guys submit another notice of intent and going through that entire process again. So that's, I think, a good way to go, in my opinion. But I will open it up to the other commission members for their comments and questions.
Through the chair,
Yes, Kim?
just a
Sorry.
quick note to the commission. In your little package that you got tonight, you have the, responses from Gail to the, Lucas Environmental comment from, I think it was 2019. I have not asked Lucas to take a look at this yet, just because I wanted to make sure that the EGL was the process that the commission wanted to move forward with.
Great, thank you, Kim. Any questions or comments from commission members? No? Okay. All right, so, questions or comments from the audience on this? Okay, so why don't we do that, Kim? If you can have Lucas review Gail's comments. I think one of the items that you had brought up preliminarily that you may need information or additional information on is the topographic info that was provided. But let's have Lucas take a look at it and, kind of get their opinion on, whether we need any additional information as well, but.
Yeah, please note that the school's already committed contractually with LEC, the wetland specialist,
Okay.
to oversee the construction and the grading and such. They're already under contract, to, provide the monitoring such as spelled out in the narrative, the wetland narrative that was submitted, some time ago. So we're trying to follow that right to the T, so.
Perfect.
I'm here, Kathy, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Hi.
Okay, if I can get a motion to have Kim issue a friendly enforcement order for, the project discussed.
So moved.
All right, Carrie has, made the motion, a second, Janine? All right, all in favor? Aye, opposed, and the motion carries. Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Great,
wonderful.
thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Good seeing you again.
Yes, you all too. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, got a few more minutes on the work session. Kim, did we have a public forum request?
We may have a commissioner request.
Okay,
I'm not sure, Ed, if you wanted to touch on the Hughes parcels.
I can touch on it, but I guess I would hope for a little bit more notice so that I could maybe talk like I know what I'm talking about. We did just put the request in today. But I would like to have, some of the other parties of, halt, to come as well. And this is the idea that was presented at an open space meeting, that open space should take management responsibilities for the properties around the Hughes property. So the properties that are owned by Concom, the properties owned by the Board of Selectmen, and we have submitted memos to both requesting the opportunity to chat about it.
okay.
So
Does
I'm
Halt
happy.
have property over
Pardon?
there? Does Halt have any property under their control over there?
I can't answer that question.
I don't think so,
Okay.
from what I've looked at.
Okay, so do you wanna, hold off on the discussion until
Yeah.
the next meeting so you
Yeah.
can do a little bit more research?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess a question that, you know, comes to my mind, and I'm not averse to it, you know, we don't really have the resources to oversee the properties under the Concom, anyway, so if another group is willing to do that, you know, I think the commission would be amenable to it. But what's, you know, just what's the, kind of the rationale for it, just,
Yeah, just,
That's it.
pretty much that's it.
Just what you said.
okay. So is there gonna be like trail expansion throughout the area, or? Okay,
Those are-
we'll let you do your research.
Yeah, those are all questions that, you know, we need to have Maury or someone from Halt here,
Okay,
because it was a concept that came from them, and I
Okay.
don't want to put words in their mouth.
fair enough. All right, so we'll just continue this to the next meeting.
Jim, did you have?
Well, it may be premature, but I was gonna say, we being Conservation Commission have other properties that we, you know, own and are responsible for management, and you're right, we don't have the resources to really do anything with those, including clearing invasives or anything else. I think it's a good idea to have open space managing as many properties as possible, including ours,
Mm-hmm.
but it may be early to say that.
So if there's a, Kim, a quick question for you, and or Joe. If we have a CR on a property, where the Concom is designated as the, holder of the CR, what would be the process to, I mean, a new CR would essentially have to be drafted and replace it, or?
I think it depends on the provisions of the specific CR and what it says. Yeah.
Jeff, I don't think any of the properties under Conservation Commission have CRs, because by definition, it's conservation land. From my
But they
looking
do.
at, in the past, I can't think of any that have a CR. Like, for example, the contiguous property to Hughes, there's no CR on that. We may have talked about Halt doing that in the past.
Okay,
But if there was a CR, then yes, that would dictate what we can do.
yeah, we'll just have to do our homework and research that, you know, 'cause-
This is not something the world's gonna end tomorrow if we don't do this right away.
right,
And we do.
no, that makes sense. If we do it, you know, we just need to make sure we do it properly, you know, so, that's the only question, or thought. Okay. All right, so we'll continue it out to the next meeting, Ed,
And I will try to round up the troops.
which is May 10th. Okay, and there were no other public forum requests, correct, Kim? All right, 7:15 on the money, so we'll move into the new hearings. Polivy, 6 Leon's Way. This is a notice of intent for an in-ground pool. Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 26th, 2022, at 7:00 PM at the Hopkinton Senior Center, 28 Mayhew Street. Hear all persons interested in notice of intent filed by Ari Polivy for the construction of an in-ground pool patio and associated site work. Location is 6 Leon's Way, Assessors Map, R12, Block 5, Lot 3. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Ryan Rosine with Goddard Consultant, here on behalf of the applicant.
All right, you wanna give us a
Yeah.
quick overview on what you'd like to do?
So, so you can see the site plan up there. So, yes, this is a proposed in-ground pool, an existing house lot. Only part of it is within buffer zone to BVW that is located on site to the south of the house. There's only about 670 square feet of permanent impact to buffer zone, and the rest is temporary. There's some minor grading, as you can see, associated with the pool, and there's erosion control, is that green line, that goes pretty much around the whole limit of work, that's on the wetland side. And then in the steeper slopes, that kind of hashed area right there in the corner, that is using erosion control matting because of the steeper slopes. We want to make sure that no erosion is going to go down into the wetland, so it's a secondary erosion control to provide that. We did receive some comments from Lucas Environmental just this past Friday. I do have some responses. I haven't emailed them to the commission yet, but I'm not sure if we want to go over them at all, or I did have one major, or not major, but concern or response to one of their comments about how Lucas Environmental would like to review these flags, and they weren't currently, when they did this site visit, they weren't on site. And Goddard's response to that is that, so this house was just recently built, and there's an order of conditions issued in 2020, and so the wetland line is still valid, even though it was closed out through a COC. It's still valid for 3 years, and actually with the state of emergency COVID tolling, it's actually good until October of next year, of 2024. So it's our opinion that they don't need to review these lines, because during that process, they had already reviewed the same exact line, and they agreed in their response to during that process that it was accurate.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission has.
Yeah, so Joe, why don't you go through your comments? We don't need to address the responses. We'll give Lucas time to go through those.
And I think the one you mentioned was really the one that needs to be addressed. And I assumed that the delineation was still valid, because the COC was recently
Yep,
issued.
yep, still valid.
I think the point, maybe it wasn't stated well, was that documentation of that should be provided in the application for the record, just to demonstrate that the filing is still, or the delineation is still current.
Yeah, in my response, I've provided, I think Kimberly gave us the OOC from that filing, and so we can provide that as part of the record, and that's in our response, attached to our response. So.
Yeah, I don't think we had any other major issues.
Okay.
Yep, so is there a dry well proposed for the pool? The backwash?
Not for the pool. There is an existing dry well that comes off the corner of the house. I don't believe there's one proposed for the pool specifically.
All right, that's typically with in-ground pools. That's something that the commission likes to see. Just so that, if they're back flushing the filtering system, it's not just being discharged directly to the wetland,
Yeah. Yeah, so that was one of the comments that Lucas made, is that you can kind of see on the top side of the house, there's that little red rectangle, and there's no label to it, and that's the proposed filter and heater. These are updated plans that are here in front of me, and I do have copies that I can provide you guys. So the filter and heater equipment is up here, pretty far outside of buffer zone. I can.
How many have? Is that for everybody?
I have 4 copies. If you guys.
I think we're good.
But I get to figure them.
But those are the changes to the site plans that Lucas had requested. So I'm not sure if, since the filter is way up here, if it's really far away from the buffer zone and the wetland. So I don't know if that changes your opinion on that.
I think, it's easy to connect a hose to that and then run it down to, kind of the buffer zone or wetland area. So if it's something that, I don't think it's a heavy lift to put that in, if we can put it in the upland area, where the proposed filter and heater equipment is, I think that would be my preference.
Add a dry well up in this area.
Yeah.
Outside of the 100.
Yeah, of course.
But other than that was my only comment. I'll open it up to the other commission members.
Not right now, for me. I gather we're not closing this time.
I do have one question to the chair. Will these be pervious pavers?
I don't specifically know. I can ask the applicant. I assume since it's not specifically called out that he was not planning on it, but that can be something that can be discussed with the applicant.
What's that, I guess? I do have a question, Jeff.
Sure, go ahead, Jim.
So what's the topography down, just below the 50-foot? Can you give me an elevation down here, someplace between the 50 and,
After the riprap slope that you're talking about.
yeah, say the base of the slope?
Yeah, so it's pretty shallow. I know there's actually not any grading down there, but it's levels off right after the riprap slope down to the wetland.
Well, right, but what's the elevation difference between the top of the slope and the bottom of the slope? Any idea? I mean, just throw out something, 4 feet, 6 feet, 40 feet?
Maybe 4 to 6 feet. I
Okay.
don't know off the top of my head.
Okay,
Well,
that's fine.
If it's a foot per line,
And the entire proposed pool is within
Oh, those
existing
are
lawn
grade
right now.
lines, okay, never mind.
So.
Yeah, I see the grade lines now, the elevation lines. All right. So
That-
it's about 310.
Yeah, that brings up a good point, Jim, because Kim, one of your concerns was the 4-to-1 slope on the backside there and the stabilization of that. I think I think you guys can get it stabilized, but the maintenance of that on an ongoing basis with, mowing, it's kind of a pretty steep grade.
Mhm.
I don't know if you had a suggestion, Kim, on,
It's more of a what is realistic for this homeowner, what's realistic during construction and what's realistic for this homeowner. I do have a question of whether we're just gonna kinda end up with more riprap slope once the pavement hits the
I guess
sand.
if it can't be stabilized correctly, I guess that's probably the only other option. But I think with the erosion control mat, and I hope, if they're properly maintained and installed, they should do a pretty good job of letting that area stabilize, hopefully. But I understand your concern of, ongoing, maintenance of that area and how, heavy rainstorms or ice melt and snow melt will affect that area.
Does the applicant, wanna maintain that as like a grass lawn area, or would they possibly be, amendable to something like wildflower seed mix that only gets mowed once a year or something?
I would have to check, but I think that's a good idea. But I would have to check with him and see what he would like to do. Because that is a steeper slope, so I can't imagine them, using it very much. So I think that's probably a pretty good idea, but I'll have to ask the applicant.
yeah, if you can have that discussion with them,
Yeah,
that'd be
absolutely.
helpful.
through the chair, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Ed.
Is there a code spec for the distance of the pool from the water line?
There is, and it's 10 feet, and so that's why we're given some extra room. That's because it says approximate. So the well is there, and the engineer believes that it goes straight to the corner of the house, and the town has a 10-foot requirement from the pool, not the patio, but the actual pool, and so we're given some extra room because it's a plastic pipe, so there's no way of accurately locating that without digging it up. So
No. It seems to me that one of the things that could help get this out of the buffer zone would be to move the pool to the minimal requirement.
I understand that. I mean, it's barely within the buffer zone. It's not very much in the buffer zone, but I do understand your concern.
I would say it's substantially in the buffer zone, but that's okay.
Jeff? Any
Yes, go
question?
ahead, Jim.
Question? So I'm looking at this now, I see where Leon's Way is. How is it possible the water service is coming in is it coming in from the rear, or is it coming in?
Yeah.
It's coming in through the rear, where's it coming from?
Well,
Oh, I see this as well, okay. Second question. Do we wanna have, we do wanna have some markers, maybe at the toe of this wall, indicating that there's, it's off limits behind our usual wetlands boundary markers? And there's nothing shown in here.
Through the chair,
Yep, go ahead.
I believe that the commission accepted the riprap slope as the PID through the COC process in 2020. I have the file here, just
Okay.
a second.
You guys seem to
I know
remember
that, but it's just that there's still a lot of property that's part of this parcel, as far as I can tell, right?
Yeah,
And-
it goes back quite a ways, but the
But it's-
whole back portion is wetland, so.
Yeah, I know, but it's still not unusual for a homeowner to go and do something with that land. Right, we've seen all kinds of stuff going on. I know there's a new shed, but we've seen sheds put up, and pickleball courts, and all kinds of stuff. So I get the PIB, but a sign might reinforce, so, or signs.
Yeah, so this is the as-built.
Medallions.
It looks like the riprap slope was the PID.
Okay. Thank you. Yep. Yeah, so the riprap slope was identified as the PIB back in 2020 on the as-built. Maybe if you can have the discussion with the applicant, if you're willing to put a couple medallions up, and, you know, in this back area that Jim's referring to, just to make sure that's,
So kinda like in this area where the slope kinda comes off.
yeah, is that what you're thinking, Jim?
Well, I'm thinking along there, unless this is a really well-defined basin. But if that, I mean, if that basin is obviously a basin, then yes, I would say up here.
I do have some photos.
So I would say, so this is oriented right on the northeasterly side of the, at the toe of the wall,
If you wanna pass that down to
medallions,
Jim.
right? So, and I forget the spacings of those we usually do. Yeah, no, I would definitely, is this the beginning of the wall over here? Is this, you see this photo here, use of riprap as PIB? Is that the southerly
Yes.
tip of it?
Yeah. I think that,
well-
I believe, I can't quite see the picture that clearly.
If that's the case, I would like to see several along the entire toe of the slope. Now, this is the other side. All right, so it's, yeah, I'd like to see several along the entire, slope. That's just me.
At the bottom of the slope.
Yeah,
So you can put like a post with a medallion on it.
and I don't know if we I can't remember if we have some typical spacing or not. If it's all site specific, but.
Would we like to specify how those medallions will be affixed or what they would be affixed to?
I think
I
they,
would say on posts, like
yeah, I think
we've
they'd have to
done
be on
before.
posts, right, Kim? I mean, there's nothing really else to put them on.
I've seen
Either
a
a
lot
stake
of,
or.
like, 1-inch stakes lately. I just didn't know if the commission would accept
Like a
such.
wood stake?
Yeah.
No, it's gotta be metal. It's gonna
Just wanted to
withstand any
clarify.
test of time.
Yeah.
Through the chair, I have a question. I don't remember approving this. It was 2020, I guess. Is that what I heard? Was there any discussion about how far the lawn should go back? Because it looks like, looking at the plans, almost all of that lawn is inside the 100-foot buffer. And when I look at the Google map satellite image, it looks like it goes quite a bit back. Now, it doesn't look like the luscious lawn, but it also doesn't look like natural nature. Did we discuss that at all?
Through the chair.
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
I do believe there was a requirement for the far end of that lawn area to be allowed to naturalize.
And has it? It doesn't look like
It
it to
was-
me,
it
but I don't know
was-
what the far end is.
When I was out looking at the COC, it was, there was taller grass there,
Okay.
but no shrub growth or anything had come in.
I wonder, just thinking out loud, I wonder if we entertained approving a pool that is, I'm gonna guess, 1/3 in the buffer, if we could ask for some of that lawn, some more of it, to be returned to nature. We don't have to decide now, but it's a thought I have.
This is this area up here?
A pools in,
So it looks like that.
you know, in existing lawn area though.
No, I understand.
No, I think it's like, if you look at that, see how there's a finger that keeps going, sort of? And if you look on here, it's the area that's northwest of the erosion control typical note. And so that looks like it's that, right? Looks like the end of the wall, and then you can see beyond it where it looks to be mowed and maintained. So it would be beyond the tip of this, or
Mm-hmm.
this end of the wall here. I think that's what you're talking about, right?
It is.
Yes, there's a faint tree line, so I would think everything before that faint tree line is grass that goes pretty far out.
Yeah. So Ted's asking to return some of that, to
I'm
undisturbed.
asking for us to consider whether
Yeah,
that
no,
is
right,
something
right.
that we might discuss.
But that area, Joe, you're saying, was, the applicant was directed to let that go wild and they were allowed
It's
to
my
mow it,
recollection that there was a condition,
mow it once a year.
I don't know if there was a specific mowing,
Oh,
recommendation or requirement, but, there was a certain portion of that was to be allowed to, naturalize.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to
That's
actually
gonna
look
be
at
lines from
the other conditions.
All right, let's just clarify that for the next, we're gonna have to continue this out, so,
Thanks.
Can I ask one more question?
sure.
So I'm looking at my plan, below the note that says erosion control is typical, what are those lines? Is that just something left over from another layer or something?
The
Black,
The
part is
black?
hashed. See, it looks like a top hat, kind of.
oh yeah, the little, like a solid line with a little, with a
Oh,
couple
yeah.
little dashes in it.
Yeah. Is that
I'm not
anything?
exactly sure what that.
Is it on that plan right there?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
it's
good one.
on, yeah,
Can you just find
It's-
out what it is?
okay.
Okay, any other
Future-
questions or comments? Questions or comments from the
future
audience?
Chambers BMW location.
Jen, anything else?
If I could have that as built back, I might be able to give a better idea of what.
Well, see, I didn't look at that.
It's not there.
Okay, so the order specifies adjacent to line W12, which is way off. So we'll have to, yeah, we'll have to look into it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, look into what? I don't mean to be nosy.
Exactly, where the commission discussed the
Oh, the edge of the
discontinuation
lawn.
of the mowing, yeah.
All right, so we'll clarify that for the next meeting, and I think for you guys, it's the dry well. Yep. The placards and the slope, you know, whether the owner's amenable to.
A wildflower
Yeah.
slope or something like that.
Okay,
And I
thank you.
think Ed had a question about the pool shifting.
Yeah.
Oh, if we can shift the pool and determine where the actual water line is, I can ask, but I think, you know, it's in an okay spot, and, you know, we wanna make sure that there's enough separation, you know, between.
Yeah, I don't think this is a mark.
Difference of opinion.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll definitely check with the applicant and the engineer, so.
Okay, if I can get a motion to continue this out until, May 10th, please.
So moved.
And a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome, thank you.
Ryan, if you just send me electronic copies
Yes,
of
I
it.
will do that right in a few hours.
Really gotta give them some buffer, I don't know what's-
Okay, moving along, Hodge, 18 Falcon Ridge Road. This is a notice of intent for a patio,
But they're within accuracy.
site work, and septic. Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 26, 2022, at 7 o'clock PM at the Hopkinton Senior Center, 28 Mayhew Street, to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Matthew Hodges for the construction of a replacement septic system, a pool house, an outdoor kitchen, a patio, and associated site work. The location, 18 Falcon Ridge Road, assessors map R21, block 3, lot 18. Good evening.
Hi.
Hey, Mr. Hodges?
Yes. Joe Marquardt, joined by homeowner Matt Hodges. Matt owns 18 Falcon Ridge Road, Lot 18C from the Timber Glen subdivision. I believe the subdivision plans are circa 2000. Boundary line was 2000. Home construction was right about that time, 2000, 2001. We are on the easterly side, well, Falcon Ridge Road is off of Snowy Owl, down Spring Street out towards the Upton State Forest. Matt has a 4.5 acre lot, single-family residential lot, home, septic system, play area, all those sorts of things. The Wetlands was ID'd on the site plans from 2001. We asked Scott Heim of Northeast Ecological to go back out and update the wetlands as a part of this process. And he delineated two series of wetlands. What we have is a septic system off to the south and the existing home that creates a ridge in the center of the usable area. And it flows to the west down to an intermittent stream at the bottom of the screen here, and easterly, to that intermittent stream, and then westerly to a BVW up the upside. So we are kind of hemmed in on either side by the buffer zones to those two resource areas. This may ring a bell with the commission. It was granted a minor exemption for the construction of the pool back in June of 2021. And that is the existing pool location that you see on the plan adjacent to the home. What we're really talking about is an expansion of that work, that permission, I guess, to take an existing patio and expand it to a larger area, introduce a couple of structures, a pool house, an outdoor kitchen, a fire pit, those sorts of amenities. The pool house obviously needs pool equipment and a dry well for maintenance activities. So there's an awful lot that needs to take place outside the home. We've got issues inside the home as well. Matt is expanding the room count inside the home, so therefore the septic system needs to be enlarged. Before we cut off our only access with the construction of the pervious patio and the pool house, we're going to expand the septic system location very near, almost on top of the existing system with an innovative technology, allow us to get the area that we need in that same general footprint. All of this takes place in areas that are previously developed. A moment ago, Kim flashed that plan. There's an existing patio structure that's out there now, adjacent to the home. The rest of the area, right in that area there's a boulder wall and a patio. And then the septic system and the areas connected are grassed. It's all lawn. And then there is a small play area for Matt's two children, swing set, slide, that sort of thing. So the area is already, previously developed as lawn or some other amenity. So we're asking the commission is to consider allowing us to move forward with the patio construction, retaining wall construction, and the placement of a couple of septic tanks, piping, and a new leach system.
Okay, great, thank you. Joe, did you want to go through your comments?
Yeah. During the site visit, it was noted that the stockpile, existing stockpile, located within the buffer zone, within 50 feet of the wetland. Stockpile does not have any erosion controls around it. That needs to be addressed. Wetland flags, A4 and A5. in Ellie's opinion, were approximately 5 to 10 feet low,
Which ones were those?
A4 and A5.
Okay.
And there were some other minor issues on the forms as far as which boxes were checked, indicating that there should be, that the BVW forms were attached. And on the Hopkinton bylaw supplement form, indicating it as an IVW, not a BVW. Also, it's noted in the narrative that medallions are proposed, but didn't see those shown on the plan. We did concur that the intermittent stream near the site is intermittent, not perennial.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was about it for significant comments.
Okay, so it's pretty minor in detail. I think the stockpile is kind of in the buffer zone that needs to be stabilized. Is that gonna be remaining there for long, or no?
Theoretically, no, if we are able to move forward with the work. I mean, but we can stabilize it in the interim without a doubt.
Okay. So, Joe, there was a replication area that was done previously, a wetland replication area, and then, Kim, can you go back to the other site plan? So up, yeah, in the western portion of the site right there. And then in the southwest, or the southern portion, there was some disturbance there when the house was being constructed, and that was kind of mitigation. Do you know what the status of that is?
No, I do not. I assumed that the COC was issued, that the Conservation Commission was happy with all the activities that took place at the site.
Okay. All right. Joe, did you happen to notice when you were out there?
Actually, Jake Pennis from LD did the site inspection on this property. I did speak to him about this briefly. He said that the existing, where the plantings are shown, I had not seen this plan before tonight, but where the plantings are shown roughly corresponds to where a tree line is shown on the current plan.
Okay.
And he said that currently there's lawn up to the tree line, so I don't know that any of those plantings are still there. If you can pull up the tree line on that current plan, see about where that is.
Yeah, let's just
Yeah,
confirm
it'd be up
that.
top there by B2, right?
Right.
Oh, up here?
Mm.
So that's, appears to be where the plantings are shown on the COC plan.
All in that area there, and that's grass area right now, you're saying?
Grass area and a landscape bed, correct.
Okay. All right, so we need to reconcile that. That may have been inadvertently changed the lawn area. And then I guess the other question, Joe, is once the septic system is upgraded and then all this new work is put in, if something goes wrong and it needs to be maintained, you know, how are you gonna get access to the system? You know, in 5 or 10 years, you know, leach field needs to be maintained. I mean, I wouldn't think the owner's gonna wanna drive an excavator, you know, through the pool area and fire pit.
Hoping to avoid that.
Yeah.
No, we would have to come back and talk about an access route through here.
Okay.
Now, this is a drip dispersal system, so the tubing is half-inch. The manifolds are in this location here, so it's unlikely, heavy machinery would be necessary. A wholesale replacement, then that would be a very different story. We'd have to bring large equipment in to remove that, reshape that. We chose the drip dispersal because it's generally benign. It doesn't need a whole lot of extra materials, stone or fill materials, those sorts of things. So, I hope it would, the technology we chose would minimize that concern, but the access would have to be around whatever is built.
Okay.
Through the chair, just because we can't see the map, I assume, Joe, you're pointing to the west through that section that is supposed to be replication area entries?
Correct, behind the fire pit, just westerly of the dry well, and then reach the tubing, which is
All right.
parallelogram down the bottom.
That's what I assumed you were pointing to. I don't see any other way to get there if you have all the other.
Yeah, the septic systems in Hopkinton just, don't seem to have a very long, useful life based on,
correct.
based on what we've seen historically, so, it's just something to consider. Okay, I'll open up for questions and comments from the commission.
I have, I think, what is a quick question, if I may. I'm looking at your plan and I see proposed blue mist granite patio pavers. I don't know from that, what is that?
Natural stone.
Natural stone?
Yeah.
So is that pervious? Is that water, what's there now?
There were pavers there before. I believe they're in the picture, actually. I think we can see.
Bluestone, right?
Yeah, bluestone, yeah.
Yeah,
Blue
bluestone.
mist granite patio pavers.
Yeah, bluestone.
So,
Granite.
loose stone,
Well, hold on.
No,
is it-
bluestone, more granite, natural
big
rock.
granite
It's
slabs.
bluestone, it's not a cement paver.
No,
Right, yeah, won't be a poured concrete surface, no.
Right.
no.
Does the water flow through there? What happens to the water that lands there? I guess is my question.
I believe it
Will
was.
flow through between the
Yeah, the
blocks in
space
that
in between.
quarter-inch gap.
Curious.
Yes.
Okay.
Doesn't look that, well, I guess it does.
Through the chair.
Yes, Ken?
So the 2000s order of condition and certificate of compliance talks about PIVs, but it doesn't appear that there are any called out on the as-built plan, the corresponding as-built plan, which is in your packet, it's the 11/17 plan. I wasn't sure, if the commission had any interest in kind of reestablishing those in the field at this point in time.
Yeah, I think that would make sense to do that.
May I ask, where were those to be?
The order specifies the 50-foot.
On the west and the east?
Mm-hmm.
So had they been in place, perhaps that area that's been returned to lawn would not have been.
Perhaps.
We can't know for sure.
I don't realize that, yeah, that's what the hell's-
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Joe.
Okay, so we're just all happy
We can
with
just
marking yellow.
reestablish
Okay.
those two PIBs with medallions on stakes or, whatever that,
Yeah, we would prefer the medallions.
okay.
I'm sorry, PIV.
Permanent movable
Permanent.
barrier,
That's
like
what-
a,
that's what they can see.
Puts you on notice that you can't push any further
Okay.
into the resource area.
Okay, just didn't know the
Or a
information,
future
sorry.
homeowner,
it's like this
at
size,
some
like
point.
this big.
Okay,
So when you're,
thank you.
And then through
somebody's
the
going
chair, if I
along.
may, if we could remember what we learned about PIBs on Oakhurst Road and what lets a future homeowner know what is real and what it can be misinterpreted.
If you see one, don't mow past it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't hear you say.
Said if you see one, don't mow past it.
Okay, any other questions from the commission? Questions from the audience? All right, so I think we just have a couple, kind of housekeeping items, Joe, to take care of, but, I think it's pretty straightforward. Can I get a motion to continue this hearing to May 10th, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, great. And since we vote, you don't need the email confirmation from, correct?
Thank you all.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
Okay, Dubinsky, 10 Highland Street. This is a notice of intent for a septic system. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 26, 2022, at 7 at the Hopkinton Senior Center, 28 Mayhew Street, to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Robert Dubinsky for the construction of a septic system and associated site work. The location is 10 Highland Street, Assessors Map R11, Block 6, Lot 0. Good evening, Mr. Dubinsky.
Good
Nice to meet
evening.
you.
Thank you for the time.
You're welcome.
Joined tonight by Bob Dubinsky. Bob, 10 Highland Street was Bob's home from '86 until just recently.
Okay.
It is right at the corner of Pocket Point Road and Highland Street, about 400 feet from Exchange Street. As I mentioned a moment ago, Bob has owned the home, the parcel since '86. There's a home circa 1780 on that parcel that you see here on the site plan. It was part of a larger 3.5 acre parcel that abuts Reed Park to the west. In March, Bob has separated off approximately 30,000 square foot parcel that contains the home and the septic system and the other amenities associated with it. There's a pool out there, a couple of outbuildings. As a part of, to facilitate that sale, as a part of the process, the septic system needed to be upgraded. It is a series of cesspools interconnected by some piping that was in failure. So what Bob asked us to do was to develop a plan for a replacement septic system for the cesspools. So we have introduced a leach bed here in the back, existing septic tank, right on top of the old plumbing. The cesspools will be demolished, the new tank will go on top of the first cesspool, the new leach bed will go on location of the second cesspool. All in areas that are lawn. There are a couple of amenities, a fire pit and some shrubs, trees just off the periphery of the system, but the system be relocated in an area that is currently lawn. In doing our site reviews, we identified an area that was of some concern off-site here to the northeast. We had Scott Heim, Northeast Ecological, take a look, and he delineated a BVW edge here. The site flows from a high point up in here somewhere from west to east down towards that wetland, so it's all heading in there. This area is moderately sloped, and we feel we can introduce that new septic system in a location that'll work well for the plumbing inside the home, the existing conditions there, and maintain a separation to the BVW edge. I asked the commission to consider the plan.
Okay, it looks pretty straightforward to me. Joe, comments?
Yeah, I think the major comment was that some of the wetland flags appeared low. Flags 1 and 2 approximately 10 feet low, and flags 3 and 4 more significantly, maybe 15 to 20 feet too low.
So 10 to 15 feet, you say?
Well, 1 and 2, 10 feet roughly, and 3 and 4, 15 to 20.
Okay.
And the only other, I think, significant issue, other than some minor items on the forms, was that it's mentioned that medallions, again, are proposed, but I don't know that they're shown on the site plan.
Okay. Okay. So with the flags adjusted, I mean, that's not really gonna have any material effect on what's being constructed, right? It's gonna push the 50 and 100 foot out. or in a little bit further. Or out a little bit further,
Yeah,
excuse me.
and the way I read it, Joe, was that the wetlands was coming to here, so therefore the buffer zones would
It's gonna bump up toward
the same way, so they'd be
Right.
moving westerly as well.
So it's still, all the work's still gonna be between the 50 and 100 foot
I believe so,
in
yes.
existing lawn area.
Yeah.
It looks like, what's the scale on this?
20.
20. 1 inch equals 20, so yeah. Okay. All right, questions, comments from the commission?
Through the chair,
Yes, Ed?
is there any reason that the leach field can't be moved westerly?
It was a location that allowed us to utilize the existing plumbing and still make a gravity connection to the leach bed. If we were to go westerly, we go uphill, and therefore we would introduce a pump to push the effluent up to the leach field. And we were concerned, I was concerned about the disruption of another tank, and there's an awful lot of surface rock. That's a very bony piece of land.
I'm familiar about that, I asked the question.
Lot of rocks.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, questions or comments from the audience? All right, I think we can, so what do we need to do about the wetland flags? Can we vote on this tonight, or would you prefer to continue it until we have those?
It's up to you. I mean, you could vote and, you know, we could have a special condition, you know, noting that we're not confirming the wetland boundary with this application.
Okay, I think that's
Yeah.
probably appropriate in this
Yeah.
case.
Let me check quickly if we have a DEP file number.
Yes,
We do, I think it's one of those today.
1788.
Okay.
Okay, if I can get a motion to close and approve the notice of intent as discussed with the special condition that Kim noted, that we're not confirming the delineation of the wetland.
So moved.
A second, please. Janine, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
It's rare, Jim, when you don't speak up. We used to just make moaning noises. I don't know if you've experienced that
It
before.
was 3 o'clock up at Charles.
Okay,
Morning notices don't go on the record.
so at this point in time, I'm gonna hand the meeting over to Kerry, who will, take charge for the town of Hopkinton, DPW, Lake Maspinock notice of intent. I'm gonna recuse myself since I'm on the weed committee and an abutter to the project. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so, lucky me. All right, so do you guys wanna kind of tell us, there's a few submittals that were done since the last meeting, I believe. You guys wanna discuss that at all?
Yes, through the chair. Good evening, and thank you again all for your time this evening. As a reminder, for those folks in the audience who may not have yet to meet me, John Westerling, Director of Public Works, and David Mitchell is our certified limnologist. And Dave, if turn it over to you for review of those things that you'd submitted.
Sure.
Please.
Again, thank you. Again, I think we met in March, late March. And since that time, I've had 2 submittals. One was in response to questions regarding a couple clarification points in terms of some points of the orders of condition, and that was submitted. It was just 3 responses. I don't know if that's been shared with the committee or not, but that was regarding that. The second one has been the just looking over the memorandum that came out April 22nd, which is Lucas Environmental. This is their second. This is basically their answers, their review of our responses to that. And I've gone through that in terms of what areas and in terms of discussion, but many places they say these will be discussed by the commission. I would say that one of the and we can go them as we go through. The other thing too is that in terms of the last meeting, there was some question about trying to define what benefits be associated with the proposed aquatic vegetation, specifically in terms of what things would change and what things would be improved. And I have a summary that is up there that you probably have copies of. Again, is in terms of looking at when you reduce the amount of plant biomass in Lake Maspinock. Again, there's a number of tangible benefits. The magnitude can be discussed, but it's just in terms of they're going in the right way in terms of improvement of the lake. And those include reducing the levels of the non-indigenous invasive species, again, something the state has established, particularly for kabamba and for variable milfoil, part of the aquatic and non-indigenous space. They have a policy that removal of that is considered to be advantageous to the lake, and they prosecute that quite a bit. The second one, in terms of there'll be improvement in fish and wildlife habitat. When you have excess plant biomass, you can actually have too much biomass, and fish, particularly ones which are game fish, like edges and areas. If you get too much vegetation, then you're probably not getting a good flow through the food pyramid in terms of the smaller fish being available for the larger ones to eat. It reduces the number of fish that, in terms of the size of them. Water quality, again, one of the things that dense plants do. People forget they're good for photosynthesis in the day, but they also respire at night. There's what's called dark respiration. They actually take oxygen down. So in a dense aquatic beds, particularly near the roots and stuff, you can actually get things where the oxygen is taken out of the water, and this leads to what's called summer fish kills. Winter fish kills are ones you find out of the ice and more connected with conditions there. Summer fish kills are, again, when you have an intense, and again, it's a relatively template, but it's kind of like during the night, during the early dawn, you can sometimes get very low DO. Also improve water quality by reducing the amount of excess organic matter, and again, that's material that can be separated from plant through senescence and decay seasonally, and that can also reduce dissolved oxygen levels as it's metabolized by bacteria. Again, reduce eutrophication. Eutrophication is a general form, but one way that you reduce eutrophication is reducing the amount of sediment settling in the pond. If you have a lot of plants in the way, they actually still the flow and become very good places for sediments to settle out. Plants like that. They like to have sediment, so it's actually adaptive for them. Again, a more balanced plant community when you try to reduce the dominant fan. This is true for anything in terms of the dominant species. You'll perhaps have niche size available for other ones. And then finally, I just say that there's enhanced recreational benefits and probably some reduction in the perceived safety procedures, but these are incidental byproducts as well. So those occur. The benefits are there. There's some incidental improvements to recreation, but I see them as a byproduct of this process. So, and I guess that's what I wanted to say. I'll entertain any questions about.
All right. I think the other document